Hey everybody, Renfail here. Hopefully you're doing well. Today we're diving into my Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Dune Awakening for new players, which is one of the big guides that we do for every game that we play. Now these guides tend to be longer and they are broken into chapters, which you can find down below. So if you've ever seen one of the sections or you want to come back and refresh yourself on an additional section, you can go back to or skip the sections as needed and work your way through the video at your own pace. Now, obviously, there are much more things to know about the game that can be included in one individual video, and I do have a variety of other guides and walkthroughs in the Dune Awakening playlist down below, so make sure to check that out, and of course tune in to the live streams, which happen every single day at around 5 a.m. Central on YouTube and Twitch. Without further ado, let's get into the guide and get you guys started to playing Dune Awakening for the very first time as a new player. The first question you're going to be asked when you're doing the character creation process is going to be whether or not you want to unlock the research menu or if you want to feature the guided journey, which locks the research menu until certain steps are completed. Now, this might sound confusing to new players. If I could break this down in a way that makes sense, essentially, as you go through the game, you are allowed to unlock recipes to create gear and weapons and items that help you in your journey along the way. The default manner of the game is to have certain recipes, items, and gear locked behind a progression path, meaning that you can't access those recipes until you have reached certain steps in the story. If you do the unlocked version, you can unlock things however you want, but you are limited by intel points. Intel points are what you spend to unlock the recipes. So if you are an advanced survival player who has played survival games before, then going the unlocked method may be something you want to pursue, but you do run the risk of accidentally spending intel points on things that you can't necessarily use at the given moment in gameplay. And because intel points are something that you earn over time and through exploration, you can find yourself in a position where you might not have any intel points left to spend on things you might need because you spent on things that you thought you needed. My advice to new players would be to always just go with the locked version, which is recommended, because that will allow you to progress through the game and unlock things based on story progression. And eventually you will get to the point where you have access to pretty much everything, but it is the recommended course for new players, and I second that recommendation for sure. Once you get to the character creation section of the game, you're going to be offered the opportunity to choose a variety of background choices, such as where are you from? What was your background before you actually entered into the game for the first time? These choices are largely roleplay specific. They don't add any actual benefits to your character. So if you're not familiar with the Dune lore and the Dune universe, these decisions might not mean that much to you, but they do offer you some unique dialogue traits and unique emotes related to the background of your character. So, for example, picking a homeworld gives you a variety of different dialogue traits and emotes to choose from. The dialogue traits only come into play during conversations, and it doesn't really matter what options you choose during conversations. They all lead to the same outcomes. These are just for flavor. So it doesn't really matter which one of these you choose. So I could say like Getty
A
Prime.
toxic place. The
And then
order
we go
of the
to
Imperium is rooted in the
what is
Farfalluses.
your background? This
A
is another
place for every
dialogue trait
man and every
related
man
to
in his
where you were
place.
from. So you can
Where
choose
is
another one
your
here.
place?
If you say Pion, for
You've risen
example.
up. You had a
And then you get
mentor in
to
your youth,
what was your
trained by
background.
one of the schools. Who was your mentor?
This is one where this is essentially, if you've ever played an RPG before, this is what you did before this point, and this background gives you starting abilities. Now, Dune Awakening is not a class-based game. It is a skill-based game, meaning that you can unlock pretty much every single ability in the game by finding the in-game trainers and working with them and earning points by leveling up and spending skills in the skill trees. However, there are some very specific what are called capstone abilities that are tied to your starting choice here. So this sort of kind of matters because these are the abilities that you will eventually become the most powerful in long term. So this is a decision that you should think about a little bit, but also understand that it's not something that binds you completely in the game. So the Swordmaster is a melee class. The Bene Gesserit is you use the power of the voice. It's kind of like if you've ever played a fantasy RPG. It's like a caster. You can think of it that way. The Mentat is a ranged character that also uses devices like a turret that you can summon. And then a Trooper is a standard jack of all trades. Uses lots of ranged weapons. Has grenades, things of that nature. So just remember that ultimately you can pretty much take every single ability in the game from all of the other trainers and you can mix and match as you see fit, but you will have certain capstone abilities that are tied to your original background decision. So bear that in mind when you make that decision here in the character creation process. As you get into the game, you're going to be following a series of journeys, a series of quests related to the tutorial system of the game. And if you go through here, you'll notice that everything in Dune Awakening goes by these journey systems. So when you first start the game, you'll be going through and you'll be following this new beginning journey. So it's going to teach you how to get your first set of armor, get your first ranged weapon. It's going to teach you about respawn points. It's going to teach you how to recon. It's going to teach you how to take out enemies and how to use your skills. All of these different things that you need to know to survive in the world of Arrakis. How to salvage, mine, and harvest. How to build things. Water. The importance of water. The importance of a roof and protection from the sun. All of these different things. You'll learn how to harvest blood, refine that into water. Um, you'll learn about spice, following the spice trials, making a still suit, so on and so forth. Um, if at any point in time you ever find yourself wondering what you might want to do next, you can always go into the Journey tab and look at the various regions and you'll find things you can do. So as an example, the Vermilius Gap is a region. We could look at things when you first get going. Um, Preparing for life, you're going to want to upgrade your tool. You want to build a shield. You're going to need to build better containers. All of these different things are part of the evolution of your character, and these are based on regions. So um, there's the Milius Gap, the Jebel Ifrit, and the Haga Rift. And then there's miscellaneous, the Shield Wall in Autumn, the Shell. These are more regions. Then there's the factions. Um, there are the Assassin's Handbook, the Fremen Steps, the Fall of the Proteus. There are more that I have yet to unlock in my own personal journey, but I am showing you this. The Journey tab is broken into the main story, which are the ones we're looking at right now. Then there are the contracts that you get, which are side quests that you can find throughout the game, the trading posts. And then there are journeys related to the overall Dune world. So this is for those of you who either know a lot about the books and are pursuing these for Easter eggs, or you're someone who might not have ever read the books but you want to learn more about the game world. You'll be able to go through here and follow these journeys through the known universe and beyond to learn more about the Imperium, the Landsraad, the Great Schools, the House Atreides, the War of Assassins, all of these different things, the landmarks of Arrakis, and you'll go through here, and these are also things where you'll find exploration stuff to get involved in here as well. And then finally on the journey tab, you're going to find this massive tutorial which covers everything you've ever learned in the game. But you can also access that directly from the settings menu. There's a tutorial section that you can go to if at any point in time you're ever worried about, well, which journey should I work on next? What quest should I work on next? You can always come back here and check this out directly from the menu. The number one most important resource on Arrakis is water. This is represented on your character screen on the left-hand side. You'll notice that there are two bars here. I have one bar on which is a thick bar and one bar that is a thin bar. The thick bar is my current water, and the thin bar is the water collection tab of my still suit. That only applies if you're wearing a still suit. If you don't have a still suit, you won't see one of those. If at any point in time your main bar starts getting low, you can always fill it up by either drinking from something such as a cistern, or if you have a leader john, aka a canteen in your inventory, you'll be able to drink from that. I have one right here. Or if you have this catch suit on your still suit, the catch pocket, you could just boom, drink directly from that, and it'll fill your main bar. And you'll notice that the main bar goes up and the catch pocket bar goes down. There are benefits to having um, your main bar full. If you look on that main bar, there are two sort of like little stars. One is at the 1/3 mark, the other one is at the 2/3 mark. Essentially, that relates to extra stamina for your character. So it's like a bonus for having full water. If you ever get dehydrated, you'll notice that your stamina goes next to nothing, and it's really hard to perform manual tasks because you will be dehydrated. The sun is your enemy. If at any point possible, you should travel by night if you're on foot, and any sort of adventuring you could do at night. Because once you're at night, you can come out here, and you will not have to worry about the sun. You do have to worry about biome heat. If you notice that just popped up, the the zones all have different levels of heat. So I'm in a zone that has a heat level of 2. The higher the heat level, the faster your body will shed water. Better gear, better still suits allow you to shed water less quickly because they are more adapted to the environment. However, you will also find that certain types of gear, like your armor sets, which I have some stashed here, which we can go take a look at really quick. Um, uh, where do I have my? Oh, I moved the chests upstairs. So up here, I gotta figure out which one of these chests it is because I moved my chests. It's not that one. And I don't know which one it is. Um, Here we go. These armor sets, as an example, if you notice it has heat protection, it says 0 at the bottom there. That means that that armor has 0 heat protection. I don't wear that armor unless I'm going out to do a dungeon. And the reason is because if I'm wearing that armor, I have 0 heat protection and I will shed water quickly, and it doesn't have any catch pockets on it. So I need to make sure I have canteens, aka leader johns, on my character at all times. Still suits, on the other hand, you'll notice have heat protection but not really any mitigation value against darts and concussion and things. So these are more suited for exploration. So I'm currently wearing this still suit right here, and I would highly recommend that any exploration you do, you wear a still suit because of the hydration capture and heat protection um, that allows you to make sure that you don't lose very much water. Now, because water is such an important thing, this is probably going to be the biggest part of the tutorial. When you first start off the game, you're going to be told how to collect water from plants, but that only gives you a limited amount of water when you're doing it by hand. Eventually, you will get to the point in the game's progression where you are allowed to craft a harvesting tool. This dew reaper, and there are various tiers of dew reapers. This allows you to harvest dew from plants at night, and you will take that dew and put it into a leader john. So if you're ever out in the wilds and you find yourself getting low on water, just make sure you hunker down until it becomes nightfall, and then you can harvest from plants and put that into your leader john. However, you can also get water by draining it from your enemies, bringing it back to your base, and using a blood refiner. Um, those those are two different ways to get water. The third way is by having a cistern. There are various sizes of cisterns. You can have a cistern on your base, and then you will have a um, some sort of wind trap, such as what I have upstairs. And I'll go show you what that looks like at the top of my base. We can go up here. These wind traps take the wind and they turn it into water, and they put that water into your cisterns. Now, these require shelter filters, which I don't have at the moment. You can see that I'm currently pretty full. This is the main storage tank for the device itself, and then the ones on the side represent the total storage capacity I have on this base, which is tied to the cistern. I have 2 of these up here, and I will be restarting these later today once I go make some filters so that they will start processing water. You will be using water not just for your character and the progression of your character and the survival of your character, but also pretty much everything you ever do in this game related to construction. So every single one of these machines required resources to build. That vehicle required resources to build. That vehicle required resources to build. My ornithopter upstairs required um, resources to build. All of those resources required water to produce. So if I go over here to like the ore refinery, you'll notice that every single one of these types of ore, steel, aluminium, as an example, duralumin, etc., plastone, all of these require water as the base ingredient for pretty much everything. Tier 1 stuff might not, like copper doesn't require any water, but once you get into tier 2, which is iron, it's everything requires water. You are going to need boatloads, literal boatloads of water. It is the backbone of everything on Arrakis. So just understand that you have a variety of ways to get water when it comes to the survival of your character. You could do it through taking the blood of your enemies and filtering that at your home base in a filtration system. You can collect it from the dew, or you can sort of, I don't want to say automate it, but you can commercialize it a little bit by the production of wind traps and cisterns, which will help you mass produce all of these different types of ore and everything else that you need to create the gear and the machines that help you progress through the survival aspects of Dune Awakening. Shelter in the world of Arrakis is really important. So you notice on the bottom left there, it says I'm unsheltered right now underneath, well, it's over the blue bar of water. Unsheltered means that I am out in the elements. And if a sandstorm comes by, I will take damage and potentially die. It also means that I'll be suffering dehydration and other things. There's basically three different states. One is unsheltered, the next is sheltered, and then you have water sealed as well. This isn't showing me here. If you're ever caught out in the wild and you don't have a tent to stay in and a sandstorm is coming, you can look for an overhang. Now, sometimes it's a little tricky to find, but if I can get one over here, I don't know if there's one close to my house. Seeing if it pops up here. So yeah, here, I moved into this area and now it says that I'm in a sheltered environment. If I walk out here, it's going to say unsheltered. There we go. So sheltered means that I'm safe from the storm. So I could run in here. You're looking for that to change to the sheltered state. Once it changes to the sheltered state, it means you're safe from the storm. You could hunker down here and you'll be safe. But you can also go into your building or any structure such as this, and you'll notice that it'll change to sheltered and then it'll say water sealed as well. This means you will not shed water. So if you are in a water sealed environment, you will not be burning any water from your character, which is very, very, very important for long-term survival on the planet of Arrakis. Now, the most important thing the game teaches you at the very beginning of the game is that you have to have a shelter built to keep the sun off your back. So this is a secondary base that I have that I'm working on building right now. I actually own all the way up to the top of that tower. You can see somebody else over there is building up top as well. Base building is a massive aspect of this game. You only need a basic structure for survival. Basically, you need foundations, walls, and a ceiling. And once you have those things in place, you're protected from the sun. You are water sealed, which means you're protected from the environment. And also you have a storage place for all of your stuff. But it is very important to understand that your base in Dune Awakening is not exactly permanent. There are two things you have to pay attention to. One is taxes. Now, my taxes are due in about 7 hours. I don't owe anything at the moment, so in about 7 hours, that's going to roll over and it's going to tell me what I owe in taxes, and I have to pay those taxes. Otherwise, the Imperials come and take my stuff. The other thing that's very important is you need to keep shields up. Shields protect you from the sandstorms. If your shields ever go down, your base will eventually, over a long period of time, degrade and disappear. So this is a game of active base management. So you have to pay your taxes and you have to keep your shields up. How do you keep your shields up? Well, you have to have some type of shield generator in place. In this case, you can use basic fuel-powered generators, which you can build at the very beginning of the game. And when you first start off, you only need one of these. But the more crafting stations you put in your home, the bigger the home is, the more things you add, the more machines you add, the more of those you're going to need. So like I have two there, I have one stuck in the corner there. I have a few up here on the rooftop, and I've also graduated to the next tier, which is the wind turbine, which uses a different type of fuel, but that um, manages resources. So we can go in here and look, and it will tell me how much time it's going to give it for. In this case, 19 days. It tells me over here the general status. It generates 150 power, so on and so forth. So um, you can load up to 3 weeks of power into your buildings via the advanced subfief console. You could just go here and straight to refuel generators. And as long as you have the corresponding fuel cells in your inventory, this will refuel generators. You can go up to 3 weeks. So you do have quite a bit of leeway if you need to go offline or go somewhere for a couple of weeks. You're going to be on vacation. Just make sure you refuel your generators before you go. This keeps your base safe. But you do have to remember to pay your taxes as well. Those are two things that are very important. So always, you're always going to need a shelter to keep yourself safe from the sun and a place to store your vehicles to keep those vehicles. Again, the vehicles are also susceptible to the storm damage. So if you leave your vehicle out in the desert, um, the vehicle will eventually disappear and take damage. I don't know if you've ever played like Death Stranding. You know how the rain works its way and can eventually destroy and rust a vehicle. It's the same thing here. The sand will eventually claim all things unless you keep them actively prepared behind a shield in some sort of a sheltered state. Now, I've already mentioned the fuel generators, but the big thing here is that fuel generators take fuel cells. You will find these pretty much everywhere in the game world, and they are either found on the ground or you can break down boxes and things to mine them like you would harvest like a mining node. But there are specific things you can harvest which are fuel cells nodes. Um, if you are only operating these generators, you do not have to come to each one of these individual um, machines to deposit your fuel cells. You can go straight here to your advanced subfief console, use this, and hold the Y button. Um, it's different on the keyboard. What is it on the keyboard? It's also the Y button on the keyboard, interestingly enough. So keyboard or controller, it's hold the Y button to refill your generators, and that will automatically take whatever fuel cells you have and load them into all of the generators across your base. However, the moment you add a wind turbine to the mix, that kind of screws that up. And hopefully this is something they approach long term. But for these, you have to manually input, and these require low-grade lubricants. And you create low-grade lubricants by using fuel cells combined with, I believe, silicone blocks and water, and you process those to create lubricant. And then you manually come up here and you quick deposit here, or you can go here to use and deposit. I don't have any to deposit at the moment. Um, but you are always, always, always going to need fuel cells to operate your shield generators and your generators overall, because these not only operate your shields but all of your machines. Now, eventually, because of the fact that there is a limitation to how many of these generators you can place, you will eventually want to uh, move to your wind turbines for everything. I'm slowly just now getting to the point where I'm doing that. So I put one of these up. These are really expensive to make. So you put one of those up. One of those is equal to two of these. So these generate 75 power. Those generate 150 power. So essentially you have to pre-build one of these, stick it up, put it in, turn it on, load it up with lubricant, and then you can remove a couple of these. But always, always, always be on the lookout for fuel cells. Stockpile them. Keep them on hand. You will always need fuel cells. It's like water on Arrakis. You're always going to need fuel cells to keep your bases going, to keep your stuff safe, to keep your vehicles safe. Um, Never ever allow yourself to run out of fuel, and always keep your generators running. The next step of this is vehicles. So there are many types of vehicles in Dune Awakening. You start off with the sand bike, you then migrate to the mining vehicle, and then eventually you get to the scout ornithopter, which I have right over here. And then you can eventually from there go to the attack ornithopter, which is a bigger version of the ornithopter and can carry passengers. Um, so the every single vehicle works the same way. Um, you have a base vehicle. You can then add a scanner to it, which helps you scan for resources, and you can add one of two things: an inventory module or a boost pack. And in some cases, like with the bike, you can also choose to add either a boost pack, an inventory module, or a seat for a passenger, but you have to make a decision. So it doesn't have any base inventory. Same thing with this machine. It does not come with base inventory. You have to have an inventory module installed on it. Ornithopter, same thing. You have to make a choice. Do you want to use a boost pack or do you want an inventory module? I prefer to have the inventory modules on the mining vehicle and my ornithopter, but I use my bike for general well, I don't use my bike anymore now that I got the Ornithopter, but I did use my bike for a very long time as my primary mode of transportation, and so I kept a boost pack on it. And I would eventually switch out to the inventory module when I went on mining runs until I had enough ore and things together to produce this vehicle. And then I have since used this vehicle whenever I wanted to go do mining, and then I use my Ornithopter for general exploration. Vehicles are very costly to make, very costly to maintain, and very costly to use, but they make your life so much better and they allow you to mass produce and get around very quickly. So you're always going to want to keep a bevy of vehicles, keep them safe in a garage. They do require fuel to operate. You have to have these fuel cells. And what do you use to make fuel cells? That's right, you use the fuel things we were talking about in the other section of the video that we use to power the generators up top. We also use those exact same fuel cells. Um, um, they're not called fuel cells. What are they called? I gotta go look because those are called fuel cells. What are these called? Oh, they are called fuel cells. Never mind. So they're all called fuel cells, but those are the basic version of it. And then you craft different versions of them to use with your vehicles, and you will always need to have some of those on hand to refill the generator. So we go over here and we could say, well, actually, if I get in it really quick, you'll notice on the bottom right, there's like a gas tank icon. Um, Mine's full, so I'm good at the moment. However, you'll also notice that there are a variety of other icons. So it looks like there are 4 treads on this vehicle. Those treads are currently orange. It looks like the motor is orange as well. What does that mean? Well, it means that, as I said, the vehicles are costly to operate and maintain. So if you go here to the manage vehicle, you'll notice that um, there's the total durability, uh, represented by the red, which is you can't go beyond that because it's broken down over time. And then we have the orange, which is this current durability. And then we have this like blue, which is what needs to be repaired. And so currently the treads need some repair, as does the engine and the PSU as well. So you do actively need to maintain your vehicles, to keep everything operating in tip-top shape and keep them fueled up. But you will be using vehicles everywhere in Dune Awakening. It is a big aspect of the game, so expect it to be doing a lot of resource management to keep your vehicles going after you have built them. But they are hugely important for exploring the game. Exploration across Dune Awakening is part of the adventure. It's part of the journey, and it is a big, big, big game map. So this entire rectangle represents the game map that you will be exploring in the base story campaign. The deep desert is additional to this, and that's where you go once you have finished up with the main story, but that's not for new players. So let's focus on the new player journey. You're going to be starting here in Haga Basin South. You're going to be exploring all around Haga Basin South. There's lots of POIs here that you're going to be exploring. You're going to be spending a lot of time in Haga Basin South. But once you get done with Haga Basin South, this represents, I would argue, probably 20 to 30 hours of gameplay on that map to get through the early stages of the game and the Tier 1 part of the game. Then you're going to move north into the Tier 2 section of the game, which is the Vermilius Gap. And this is split into 2 zones, the western and the eastern. Now, this is where you're going to be starting to get into the advanced part of the game. Resources take water, you need better shelter, you need better gear, the enemies get more difficult, and you need to establish a newer, better base. And this is where we get into the exploration and base building aspect of Dune Awakening. You are expected to maintain multiple bases. You can have one basic base, which is what you start off with, and you can have up to 3 advanced subfiefs, advanced bases. My recommendation would be, when you start the game, you have a base down here, and then you eventually get told to abandon this base, because the game is telling you, hey, you can actually abandon bases if you want to, and build a base somewhere up in here. Without spoiling any story stuff, I would recommend building a base close to the trade posts. And the reason for that is because the trade posts have a lot of um, quests, but also they operate as fast travel hubs. So to help you ease your journey throughout Dune Awakening, if you can manage to get placed somewhere near to a trade post, I would recommend that for new players. However, you might be someone who loves base building, and you might find a unique geographical land point that you want to build next to that's nowhere near a base. Totally fine with that. Just understand that you're going to be doing a lot more travel than other players, and that is going to be reflected in the maintenance of your vehicle as well as how much fuel you have to create for your vehicles because you're going to be putting more wear and tear on your vehicles over time. So it's a big game map. You're going to be spending a lot of time going all over the place. Um, I personally I maintain two main bases, and I'm debating a third right now. I have one base down here next to Anvil Station, which is my first operating base that I used for about 50 hours of gameplay. And then I graduated to this secondary base, which is up here next to the Pinnacle Station, which is in the northern quadrant of the game. Um, the quests and also almost all of the resources you're going to be doing for T4 and T5 are kind of up here in the northwest of the game. But then you start getting into needing resources down here in the southwest in this zone. And I don't have anything close to there. So more than likely, I will also be building a third, probably what I will call an operating base, which will probably just be full of storage chests, and like a mining vehicle that I can use to go out and mine resources, and then fly them back to my main base. At least that's the current plan. I might change that plan later on. But I do recommend having multiple bases for multiple things. You don't have to do it that way. I know for me, I have mining buggies at both stations, at both bases. So this allows me to have a mining vehicle for all of the tier 3 resources down in here. And then I maintain a mining vehicle up here for all of the T4 and T5 resources. But that's a personal decision. Not everyone has to make that decision. But this is a big game. This entire map represents a couple hundred hours of exploration and gameplay if you truly play every quest and you're going to go and craft all of your things and you don't just rush to the deep desert. So knowing that you're going to get a couple hundred hours of gameplay out of this map, you're meant to build multiple bases. That's why they allow you to have up to 3 advanced bases. So just bear that in mind when it comes to the exploration and base building in Dune Awakening. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. I already have a beginner's guide to combat, so I'm not going to cover combat extensively in this video, but I am going to briefly talk about the various types of weapons and things you need to pay attention to for combat. So there is melee combat. You can use different types of melee weapons. I like the rapier. You also have different types of ranged weapons. There's shotguns, long-range rifles, pistols. I like the sniper rifle. Personally, this is like the weapon that I use 90% of the time. And then I have an SMG, which is what I use for close weapon encounters when people are running up on me and they've got shields to burn down because it's an extremely rapid fire rate. It burns through shields really well. And then, of course, I have all of my abilities, and don't forget your personal shields, which protect you from enemy attacks. Um, the big thing here is to understand that there is no right way or wrong way to play the game. Let me get in here so I'm water sealed. Um, Part of the game is based on the weapons that you have, and the weapons are divided into tiers. There's also the skill part of the game, which is the skills that your character has. But let's talk about the importance of weapons and understanding how the system works. So everything in this game is broken down into tiers. You have the copper tier, you have the iron tier, you have the steel tier, the aluminum tier, so on and so forth. And so you can basically say copper is tier 1, iron is tier 2, steel is tier 3, aluminum is tier 4, duralumin is tier 5, and plastinium is tier 6, right? Um, you have a lot of options to choose from in terms of what you create. Swords, snub-nosed pistols, etc. Heavy armor and light armor. In every single case, the enemies you fight in any given tier are going to wear the gear and have the weapons of that tier. And so if you are fighting against enemies of tier 4, but you are using tier 3 weapons and armor, they're going to do more damage to you, and you're not going to do very much damage to them. Whereas if you have tier 5 armor and weapons, fighting tier 3 guys, for example, you will do more damage to tier 3 guys, and they will not be able to do very much damage to you because you have gear that is higher than what their weapons are. So it is a tiered structure, weapons and armor. So in order to have the best fighting chance at survival in combat, you should always be keeping your gear up to the current tier that you are exploring. Otherwise, you'll find the enemy encounters to be extremely challenging and potentially overwhelming. Similar to that is your skills, are your skills, I should say. There are 3 tiers of skills. There's your base tier, there's your secondary tier, the advanced tier, and then there's a third tier. In order to rank up your abilities with your class, so to speak, you must perform quests for the trainers. So, as an example here, I have only ever done the basic quest for the trooper. So, I can only do the first tier of trooper abilities. If I want to unlock the upgrades for any of my trooper abilities, I must complete advanced trooper training, which I've never done. I have, however, done advanced training for my Mentat, so I have rank 3 Mentat abilities. And I have done rank 2 upgrades for my Planetologist because I have ranked him up. So if you want to have the best chance of success, you need to always be keeping in mind that you need to be working on ranking up your abilities as well as your weapons and armor to continue to face the challenges the game throws at you. It's not a level based game. There are levels in the game. If you look at the top right, I'm currently level 129 out of 200. Um, that level system is what gives me the points. Every time I level up, I get points, which I can then spend on skills. Skills cost points. As an example, this skill cost me 4 points to upgrade. But the level system does not give you more hit points. It does not make you tougher. It doesn't give you more armor class. What gives you more armor class and makes you tougher is your better tiers of armor. And what makes you stronger is better tiers of weapons and stronger abilities, which you have to get by progressing quest lines with the trainers. So progression in this game in terms of combat is not just related to the weapons, but also the tier of the weapons and the tier of your gear and the tier of your abilities. So bear that in mind. As I mentioned in the previous section of the video, gear tiers are extremely important. The tier of your weapons, the tier of your armor, all very, very, very important. However, gear in Dune Awakening is also situational. I talked about this in the water section of the game, the importance of hydration and water. Still suits are exploration armor sets, which have a catch pocket of water on them, which allow you to then say, hey, I'm getting thirsty. Let me drink from the catch pocket, which I just did, and that bar on the left hand side is going to fill up, like so, because I drained my catch pocket to fill up my main water, and I consumed water as we saw on the screen. But base still suits don't really have any mitigation on them. They have some basic armor value and heat protection, but they don't have mitigation. And that's where we get into the different types of gear that you can create in the game, such as scout armor or heavy armor. And these are all tiered. So there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, etc. This is currently a tier 4 set of gear made with aluminium. This is the heavy set, which provides me with a certain armor value, and I get light dart mitigation, concussive mitigation, and heavy dart mitigation, but I lose blade mitigation. Whereas the scout armor gives you blade mitigation, but does not give you dart concussion or heavy dart mitigation. You can also look at this in your research tab when you're looking at researching the various types of gear. You will be able to hover over something and say, if we go over to the weapons tab and say we go down to steel, which I skipped because I was using a really good steel suit. The Slaver Heavy Armor, you can go down here and look at it. It'll show you what it takes, and then you can show the stats, and it's going to show you what it what kind of mitigation it gives, or we could go look at the scout set. Same thing coming over here and show the stats. It's going to show us what it offers. Gear sets are situational in this game. There are no gear loadouts. Funcom is very adamant that players make conscious decisions about the gear and weapons that they are using at any given time. So we are not allowed to use loadouts. So you have to have a very conscious thought processes about what type of gear you're going to be using for whatever it is that you're doing today. So I tend to use a still suit for my general day-to-day and the exploration because it has the water reduction. And I use a shield, so I don't really generally have to worry about too much damage. Obviously, things can take down your shields, but this is a general day-to-day protection. I'm good in this. However, if I know that I'm going to go do a dungeon and get into a combat situation, I will absolutely come in here, take off my still suit, and switch to this armor set. In addition, there are radiation areas of the map where if you do not have a radiation suit, you will die very, very quickly. And so you are required to use a radiation suit to explore those areas. The radiation suit does not make you immune, but it does give you protection against it, and it slows down the effects of radiation over time. So gear sets are very, very important to surviving in the game, and there are different gear sets for different situations, and you will need to be keeping a conscious eye on different types of gear sets for different situations and using them appropriately. There are many, many, many types of weapons in the game, especially by the time you get to the final tier of the game. You will have unlocked every single type of weapon there are. So you have dirks, you have disruptors, you have drill shots, shotguns, spit darts, rifles, daggers, pistols, rocket launchers, or missile launchers, snub nose pistols, rapiers, swords, and giant two-handed like machine gun cannons. Um, the important thing to understand is that there's no such thing as the best weapon in the game. There's just what weapon suits your playstyle. How do you want to play the game? I personally like the um, rapier for close combat. That's just it's a visual preference more than anything else. Let's go down here and get some better lighting. I just love the rapier. I just think it looks cool. I like the animations on it. Slow attacks, light attacks. Um, Different weapons have different finishing moves and different finishing animations. They do different things. Different weapons have different attack times. Heavier weapons are slower. The dagger is the fastest. Then we get into things like I prefer the sniper rifle because as a mentat, I've loaded up on ranged damage bonuses and headshot bonuses. So I like the sniper rifle because I can one-shot a lot of enemies with this rifle, and then anything that gets close, I can usually switch over to my SMG for because this burns through shields and has a rapid rate of fire, but its accuracy is absolutely shit. It sprays everywhere. And then if they get really close and they're beating me around, I can switch over to the rapier and I can defend myself in close quarters. You are going to need multiple types of weapons. You can have as many as you want. You could load up this entire hotbar with weapons if you wanted to, but I have a system, so this is my system. Um, in addition to thinking about the types of weapons, there's also the skills that complement your weapons because some types of weapons are buried in the skill trees. So, as an example, as a mentat, I can pull out this turret, which defends me for a certain amount of time. You can also get access to grenades in the trooper line. So there are additional weapon types that you can unlock through these skill trees from the various types of trainers. So just understand that there are a lot of different weapon types and a lot of different ways to play this game. So you can pick what suits your playstyle the most. When you start the game, you are given a background to choose from, and that will govern your initial starting abilities as well as the capstone abilities that you have access to, which are the ones at the very, very tippy top. Um, but you can take any combination of skills in the game that you want, apart from these specialty capstone abilities. Um, so if you think about it this way, you have a base archetype which governs your starting abilities. but then you can talk to any trainer in the game world and unlock the ability to also access those abilities as well and mix and match as you see fit. So, for example, I am primarily a Mentat, so I have worked on maxing out my Mentat line, but there are lots of ways to play the Mentat. I personally prefer the Sentinel, which is the turret, and then I have specialized into ranged damage. But I have do have rank 3 poison capsule, but apart from that, I only have some of these because they have the passives range damage bonus. But there's also these additional abilities like the ability to use the stun dart, the poison tooth, the poison mine. There's also the hunter seeker that you can unlock. And there's over here, there's like the shield wall, the Solido decoy, things of that nature. Excuse me. Um, the important thing to understand is that you can do any combination of these that you want, and if you look down in the bottom right, you can respec at any point in time. There is a limitation. It's every 48 hours, but it's free to respec. So if you play around for a couple of days with something and decide you don't like it, you could just respec, choose something different, spend your points in a different way, and play something different. Um, every single class in the game can be unlocked, but you have to first find the trainer. So, for example, I have chosen just to ignore the Bene Gesserit and the Swordmaster because I don't want those abilities on this character. I'll be doing that on an alternate character. So I have focused on the things that matter to me, which is the Mentat for the range damage. I like the Planetologist for all the crafting bonuses and vehicle repair stuff, and I have this for the Shigawire, but also because of center of mass, which gives me some additional body damage for my shots and also some overall ranged damage. And I could specialize even further if I wanted to for additional disruptor damage or scattergun damage, so on and so forth, or field maintenance on your weaponry. So lots of options. Arrakis is a dangerous place, and traveling safely is the key to making sure that you don't lose your stuff. Because even though when you die or when another player kills you, you don't lose your gear. You only lose, like a survival game, you lose a few of the things from your inventory. If you die to the worm, the giant sandworms of Arrakis, or if you die to environmental damage, such as quicksand, such as what you might find here, um, you lose everything. You lose your vehicle, you lose all the things in your vehicle, you lose all of your gear. You do not want that to happen. So, there's a few things you need to pay attention to when it comes to traveling safely in Dune Awakening. First and foremost is you can create scanners, and you could send those scanners up into the sky, and they will scan a zone, and they will show you where these quicksand, represented by the lines here, these are the quicksand areas. And then you just need to avoid those. Don't go near those with your bikes or anything, because if you get in quicksand, you lose everything. So avoid the quicksand. The drum sand, which is represented by these round areas, circles with the dots in the middle, is sand that will make a lot of noise when you travel over it, and that will quickly call the worm to your location, and you can die. And finally, the worm, which travels very, very quickly, more quickly than any vehicle travels. And it can not only eat land vehicles, it can also eat your ornithopter out of the sky. So it's very, very important if you want to travel safely in Dune Awakening. There's a few things you have to pay attention to. Number one, if you are traveling on foot or if you are on a land vehicle, always be using your map to plan out the shortest distance between two rock places because the worm can only get you on open sand. However, you also have to worry about things like drum sand or quicksand when you are crossing sand. So you need to have always have the areas scanned first before you go adventuring. Take a scanner, climb up a wall, fire your scanner off into the sky, and scan the area first. You have to do that per zone. Each zone has to be explored to fully unlock it, otherwise, it's covered by a fog of war. Once you've uncovered the zone and you've unlocked it and you no longer see the fog of war, you can plan your travel accordingly. Long distances create more opportunities for the worm to get you. Vehicles such as the speeder bike have boost modules on them. You can travel faster, but the mining vehicle does not, and so it is very slow. Well, it won't if you are harvesting. You can put a boost module in the mining vehicle, but most people prefer to have the inventory module, which means it won't travel as fast. And so things like going from here to here, that's a wider gap. That's a greater danger. Not a big deal, but you would never want to cross like from here to here or from here to here. That's a long distance. That's a dangerous amount of sand to cover. So anytime you're traveling on foot, you should be looking and going, well, okay, if I want to go from all the way over here, right, this area right here, if I want to go from the Table of the Gods over, I would want to travel down south here to here, go to the southwest corner, and then I'm going to go around that sand, and I'm going to come up over here, go here, and then I'm going to come down through here, and I'm going to travel all the way through here. I'm going to go over here, and then I'm going to come over to here, and then where do I want to go? Anvil Station. Okay, let's go over here, and then go up, follow the rock, follow the rock, follow the rock, boom. I'm at the anvil. Now you could jump over and come through here, but you have to plan it safely. And as far as traveling in your ornithopter, understand that the worm will always get you when you are above open sand. So you're okay when it's a rock area. So if I could jump in here in my ornithopter really quick and show you what I mean by this. If you're in a rocky area like this, you don't have to worry about the worm over here. But the moment you get into open sand, you do. And if you're flying too low, you can get eaten by the worm. So you want to make sure to stay plenty high and don't get eaten by the worm. Exploration is key to this game, but exploration is also very dangerous. So you need to take the necessary precautions to protect yourself and your gear. So base building is a major aspect of this game, although the very basic structures can be very simple. Once you get into the later game, you're going to unlock a variety of additional sets. So if I open up my construction tool here, you'll notice that I have the basic things where you can, your generators and your subfief consoles and your refiners and everything else. But then we get into, okay, every player basically starts off with the Chome Shelter Foundation, which gives you all of these different building blocks. There's structural, there's walls, there's wedge walls, there's roofs, inclines, and special. Then there's the Chome Facility, which is a different type, and this is combined with some specialty pieces. Some of these are like Twitch drops. That you can get by watching players on Twitch. There will be more coming, such as these right here, the Observer Foundation. We've unlocked a few of these through the Twitch drops. There will be more coming later on down the road. But then you have your specialty sets, which can only be purchased from your faction merchants. So I have, as an example, the Atreides set, which gives me, oops, I tabbed over the wrong way. This gives me access to the Atreides building set, which is completely unique, and it has different building blocks and different pieces. Now this requires a lot of different types of resources. The basic structures can all be built with I believe it's granite for the interior, for the outside stuff, and then scavenged metal for the inside stuff. But this, you'll notice, requires, some of these require granite, but a lot of these require plastone, which is a specialty thing that you have to create using like silicone blocks and basalt and water. So it's much more difficult to make. But the building aspect of this game is where a lot of players are going to be spending hundreds of hours of time. So not only can you build a basic structure, you can also expand your land claims. So if I look up into the sky, you're going to notice that I have there's 6 connected boxes that are shown up there all the way up top. Now, when you first make a land claim, you get 1 box. It's a square. It's a certain amount. I don't really know the dimensions off the top of my head, but it's like a square. If you could think of it like a square box, it's like a meter squared. But you can expand that by building land claims, which allows you to buy additional boxes in adjacent squares. So I have bought 6 squares total in a giant rectangle, but I have also expanded my base vertically. And I showed this in a different video where I own everything all the way up into the sky up above this structure. And there's like a crow's nest up there where I will eventually be building a structure. And you can see I've kind of already put some things onto the wall up there just to sort of play around with some things and check heights and stuff. And there's some at the very tippy top on top of the archway. And you can see over there in the distance, someone actually has started to build, if I can close this down, someone's actually building something over there on the top of that structure. So they have claimed a vertical space so that they could build a really cool base up top there. And there's a lot of cool things that you can do with building. So just understand that the building in this game can be very, very basic, but it can also be very, very complex. And they have a lot of tools at your disposal, a lot of building pieces. There's also tons of set pieces, and you could build some really, really, really cool bases in this game. So that's somewhere where you can lose hundreds of hours, which I already have, and will continue to lose more. If I could give new players one super, super useful tip that's going to save you so much hassle, it's going to be the vehicle backup tool. Always carry one of these on you at all times. This is an exceptionally handy tool for doing this right here. Boom. I have picked up my bike. My bike is now stored in this handy handheld device, and then I can deploy this bike at any point in time, like that. So this allows you to say, travel on the bike to a dungeon, and then drop the bike, um, get off the bike, suck the bike up into your handheld tool, and then go into the dungeon and know that your bike is safe and it's not outside where it could potentially get damaged by a sandstorm. It'll be with you at all times. Now, you can only do this for the bike, and you can't do it for the mining vehicle. The mining vehicle is too big. But you can use it on the bike and your scout ornithopter. Note that you can only do it for an empty vehicle. You cannot do it for a vehicle that has a storage space. So if there's anything in the storage space, if there's anything in the inventory of the vehicle, it will not pick that up. But otherwise, you can use this tool to pick your vehicles up and make sure that they are not left out in the environment to take damage. It is exceptionally useful for I use my ornithopter for pretty much everything these days. So you fly to a destination, store your tool, put your tool on your hip, excuse me, run around, do your adventuring, come back, pull your tool out, drop the vehicle in an appropriate space like so, get in your vehicle, and off you go to explore. So never leave home without your vehicle storage device. You can only store one vehicle in a device. So if you wanted to have like an ornithopter in one device and your bike in another device and have both of those devices on you, you could totally do that. If I can leave you with one final tip for Dune Awakening, it's that the game can be played solo. I'm playing the game solo, but the game is a multiplayer game, and it is designed to be played with other players if you want to be the most effective to get resources the quickest way, the easiest way. Base building is much easier with friends. You could set up the permissions. So, for example, my mining vehicle that I showed earlier, you can have somebody in the passenger seat to come with you to help protect you. You can have somebody running the mining tool up top, so you could be driving the vehicle while they're mining from the mining turret. The bigger assault ornithopter has room for 3 passengers, so you can have yourself, a friend. You can have a full group. So, full group in this game is 4 players. So, the assault ornithopter allows you to roll around the environment with your 4-man group and get from place to place very quickly. Um, it does not need, you don't have to play group if you don't want to, but the game is designed with group play in mind. There's um, proximity voice chat, which I don't use because, again, I play solo and I have friends that I play with, so we use Discord. But if you're a solo player who wants to experience this game to the maximum amount of enjoyment that this game can offer, you could do all of your adventuring solo, but just be aware that things are more fun with friends, or they can be more fun with friends if you have good friends. So be open to that possibility because things go much more quickly and are much more easy to access in Dune Awakening if you're doing them with friends as opposed to solo. Don't worry about anything beyond what you feel comfortable playing. The deep desert that everyone talks about, that's in game, late game, don't worry about that. There are 200, 300, maybe 400 hours of gameplay available here for the single solo gameplay experience for those of you who want to dive into Arrakis before you ever have to worry about the end game. So for new players, try not to focus on any of that stuff. Don't worry about the quickest or the fastest thing. Just focus on your fun. Hopefully you found this video to be useful. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Check out the playlist below for more guides, and of course, don't forget, if you ever get lost, you can check out the chapter list down below and go quickly to any of the sections that you wanted to view. And I'll see everybody in the next one. Stay safe out there, and happy gaming.